Ladies and gentlemen, you have many more of you on this channel than you have ever been. Conducted in a formal relationship throughout your life. And today, my wife and I are here to bring you the biggest fan service you've ever had in your life. Very good gamers, how are we? This is Genshin, and today we're in a new video on my wife MAVUIKA'S legendary build. Both carry and support, as well as 4 and 5 star weapons as well as sets, as if it. Active or not active obsidian outside the field, such as constellations that I already uploaded coning, and there's a surprise in beta to start very strong, and is that the amount of ticks from 6 to Chero, and 8 to Cone has moved to 7 to Chero, and 10 ticks to Cone, which is no longer just a C5. With full uptime that this is abysmal madness plus the C2 multiplier. I'll also talk about whether Arlecchino improves or not. If it is better at Chero, Cone, or C2 than Arlecchino itself, and what real level of power it has. In front of Novelette, who will surprise you what I will tell you, because I also advance you. He's not as strong as we thought, but he doesn't disappoint. In other words, it does everything that was proposed, but not at abysmal levels, but within realistic ranges. So leave a good like, a good ulti of Bennett, subscribe, leave a good comment. And for the algorithm, thank you for enjoying and watching channel video, thank you for everything, love and support. Remind us that this NASA is totally free, recommends and positions. The video, it makes us grow. Let's hope this video, and I ask you wholeheartedly for the new year, even if it's a little Christmas gift from you to me in exchange for everything I think I give. To the community, I would love to have this video as soon as possible reach 100,000. Is possible, and in the future over 500,000 visits, this legendary building of AF. And remember that once a day the rings of lunar blessing are active only by comment, subscribe with bell, and give like to the video. So I don't know what you're waiting for because it's totally free. Help and win things. Legendary building of MAVUIKA. Well, she can play perfectly carry and support. It's quite better than Xiangling, especially above Akone, but already Achero is better than Xiangling. And as a matter of fact, Achero is better than Arlecchino and C2, and especially with C2 too. This is very important. It's better than Arlecchino. Akone versus Akone is an amazing support, but Akone versus Akone with Arlecchino would say I would recommend only with the Kon Arlecchino because of its constellations that I now enter into detail. Now, here are some pretty important details. Number 1, the normal attack is not raised. I'm already seeing people who, if they want to triple crown her, but if I don't know what, you won't be able to. Because to raise the talents, it takes the material of the new boss, and for now, like, it's the first week. You can only grow the boss once, and spoiler, and again, interesting fact. Give like if this data serves you. You do not need to do the mission in order to go. Remember that there is a new quality of life, and now the new bosses can be re-entered here. And from the menu of the Book of the Adventurer, where you collect the daily ones, you enter directly to the thing. And you can do it. Also remember that rewards can only be drawn once, every 7 days, but you can come here and get out. I have them enter the 7 because like many of you, I have 2 materials this week, with which I have gone up from 6 to 7, 1 and the other equal 2. In future, the scaling and payability will be 1, 10, 10, and we will also see larger numbers. I've already reached 900 and peak, almost a million, not the exact million, but 900 and peak. So 1, 10, 10 is played, but you'll all play while you see this build. Probably 1, 7, 7. Now your elementary ability. It has basically a lot of text, but your ability is. Independent cooldown apart from field time and everything else, and with the cone you have full uptime. Your elementary ability is the one that activates the mount mode. You can go over the water, you can burn a lot of time, plus until the noctambulism points are over. You can go for the B, Earth, it is Jesus Christ. He has 18 seconds of cooldown, and remember that once you throw the ulti you win a bonuses in normal and 8-second loaded attacks, so your carry mode in the field is 8 seconds. but it's got 18-year-old cooldown, but the ulti has 15-year-old cooldown, so it's gonna be a adaptive rotation to 18, which is a little bit more than Alakino, but you're going to play with Ziddle at 16. If not in 15, you come 15, and technically you can leave before the field because you don't depend on coming back. To castrate your elemental and play rotation of 15, the first 2 rotations with 2 ultis of A, the enemy is not going to last longer, basically. This is summed up in that the elemental now. I explain in Facilitate Razor. Castias, and this beats the enemies as if it were the ulti of Wanjiang. At Chero, you are going to make 7 ticks, not 7, for about 14 seconds with cooldown of 18, and without Cone, you are going to make 10 ticks with 20 seconds of use, 18 cooldown. That is, with Cone, you have full uptime, and it's an incredibly powerful elemental. And at the same time, you're losing Noctambulism point. Important point here before the sets is that it is already confirmed, and it has been possible to test that the set is only when the character is in use, so outside the field is not Obsidian, nor can go Obsidian. Outside the field, if you play support, you will always have to go Parchment, with which many of you would be waiting for the presets because Mavuika, like others. Characters like, for example, in my case, Xianyun, who broke the green shadow with the Son of Yesteryear, and I had a lot of presets, and I had 2 sets and I changed them with Mavuika. Literally 2 characters in one. You need the presets because many, and I include myself, are rotating between the Parchment and Obsidian. Zumari outside the field will always Parchment, and when it is carry, DPS in the field will always go Obsidian and activate it perfectly both inside and outside the field. Yes. Solution that many here say, well, clear, but Shilonen has Parchment. For the reality is that it is true. With concrete equipment such as Kinnick's Parchment, with Kinish Bennett Furina is perfect. In Raiden National the same, because mainly you will play Bennett Furina Raiden Mavuika. But if you go with Molani, for example, and play Mavuika Xilonen, or some team I've seen that people want to play Mavuika with Novilet Furina Shilonen, you will have heard many, and it is the most viable solution to play Xilonen Petra Archaica. So, go! Petra said pull triple defense with substatic recharge. Gross probability because it jumps. The Favonius. But it's going to change the set to Xilonen because it's mainly the combination. Where they crash in the set Mavuika and Shilonen. For the rest, when Mavuika is carry goes with Obsidian, there is no. Now this is the elementary lot of text, but basically it's this. The ulti, what does the ulti do? You make the cut. This is amazing that the more combat points, the more damage the cut will do. The ulti, and in the very important Abyss, this point in the Abyss, you will always start, as with everyone. The characters start with full power, with Mavuika start with 200 points, with which nothing more you have the first time your ulti will already be a cut of maximum damage, with 200 points, and they will already be. To see if with the 80 points Mavuika herself spends Chero with your elementary skill, and if you have Cone, you spend 120 out of 200, practically getting a single second character from NATLAN. With the Cone that spends at least 80 points, Shilonen spends 80 points already, you have 200 points, so for example, it would be feasible. Who does not take Sitalali here to ask me is very recurring, sure. I take Sitalali as mandatory. It is important because the truth is that if you get Mavuika Cone and go with a Shilonen, you have the 120 of Mavuika Cone Shilonen, also gives you almost 90 or more than 90, and besides remember, that also earns combat points with normal attacks with which Mavuika Cone Shilonen Furina. Bennett vaporizing instead of melting, it's like some kind of Alicino-like team. You already win 200 combat points. That means you're going super well and super quiet, but good out. Other than this, the ulti makes you have the initial cut with incredible damage, gives you a buffo that I said 8 seconds. Before this, 7 seconds for 7 seconds to be a hyper carry in the field, while you last the skill Elemental, but let's remember that it will still last perfectly, and the Elemental has cooldown of 15 to... In the end, it has cooldown of 15 and not 18. They lowered the cooldown to the elementary, not the one that is 18 is the ulti forgiveness. The ulti is the one that has cooldown of 18. Knew that there was one of the 2 skills that has a higher cooldown than the other, and also the multipliers of normal and charged attacks. To be carry are in your elementary ability, and the ulti gives you a bonus those 7 seconds in proportion to your total attack. Is to say, if you go with Bennett, you will earn more bonus still, so that the best you have. Mavuika's in every case is always going to be Bennett. I'll make a video apart from the teams because It's a guy like you do with Raiden, basically. And when it comes to coming back in with MAVUIKA, you throw the ulti and you get to make yourself loaded in the field with the bike so that it melts if you go with Citroen or Vaporize, one of each. 3, if you go with Fiorina, it's a little worse, but it does quite damage too, and Fiorina gives you the damage. Inflicted, that Fiorina has first talent of extension when a character makes a Nightwalker burst. MAVUIKA attack increases 30% if you go with Shilonen, which allows you to activate 2 Night Owls by. Rotation, you almost continuously have 30% of 10 seconds and you can't stagger, i.e. you. It's not that you win 60-90 and so on, but that it would be a 30% continuous if you go the same way with 3 characters. NATLAN, but some is not Xilonen. Remember that the burst works that the more characters of hot. NATLAN on the team more reduces cooldown, the waiting time that has the activation itself. Burst Noctambulo is to say, even if it is 30% of 10 seconds, will not pass 10 seconds of rotation and is usually going to end up mainly with Xilonen, which allows you to activate 2 bursts per rotation by. The extension talent, you will have 30% extra continuous attack all the time, no problem in it. The talent and is easy, and so in talent when using the ulti according to the total points that have combat up to a maximum of 200 character in field earns 40% damage inflicted. And then it goes down for 20 seconds to 0. That's the first 10 seconds. Will pass from 40 years inflicted to 20 years? Inflicted the first 10 seconds, the most important thing is. Because with Mohalani you will throw the ulti that throws that 1.5 million ago and like this. Or with Kinish you will. The first balls to remember that Kinish also has different passives and talents that make. Kinish's first ball is the strongest of all you play Kinish. Then it's interesting. And he puts in 40 years inflicted on Kinish and Mohalani. Apart from the parchment, set on Kinish and Mohalani, and more characters and in Mohalani as you go with Shilonen, since Shilonen Petra for the 2 sets. Parchment can't be played together. And then extra talents as the bikes basically, that's Jesus Christ as a constellation. Mount the Cone is what explained to you have Bufado MAVUIKA out of all beta and changes that were not in beta, and this is really good and more a support basically. Pass from 80 points of Noctambulism of the elementary ability that makes 7 hits to 120 points that makes 10 hits. This is crazy and increases 25% efficiency with which you get fighting spirit. I mean with MAVUIKA Cone plus a NATLAN character practically more normal attacks than. You also earn Spirit Fight in normal attacks from any character on the team you're going to pull out the 200 points, and that's very good, and you're not going to have trouble getting the maximum of points from. Fight does not depend on having 3 Nathland characters as commented by the team of all. MAVUIKA, Citlali, and Shilonen Bennett, and those who do not leave Citlali can play MAVUIKA, Fiorina, Shilonen, Bennett, and there's no problem, and then to get Fighting Spirit from MAVUIKA's attacker. Increases 40% 8 seconds if you notice the ulti gives you 7 seconds of bufo when it is carry in field, and this is done to coordinate that 40% extra attack when MAVUIKA is carrying in the field. In short, that is when you throw the ulti and activate the passive to be carry in field 7 seconds as us. Win this bufo, also the C2. The base attack of MAVUIKA increases by 200 points. This is very rough, because the base attack is not the total percentage, the base is that of the character on the level scaler. Not to reform base and weapon, this makes MAVUIKA having the highest base attack of the game. With 359 plus 741 weapon, which is the most base attack weapon in the game, to win 200 more gets as in all 1300 base attack. And all the percentage you throw out, attack helmet if it is carry plus clock. Attack plus Bennett's buffos plus nobility plus Pyro's consonants plus Silonen's C22II. You have it that gives 45 more attack more if you bring a dragon hunter in Citral, and if not, you have his weapon makes him the most attack character you can get from the total game. Characters that reach 4,000 or 5,000 on some occasions, and seems crazy MAVUIKA will overcome easily the 5,000 and can reach 6,000 with C2. And that remember that there is an attack multiplier. That is here, that is the ulti, that when you throw the ulti, you win 7 seconds of a bufo that gives you more damage in your normal and loaded attack, and in the gigantic cut of the million ultima. Gives you more bonus on your normal, and loaded 60, 90, and 120 of your attack normal loaded, and 120. Of the attack on the solar cut, that is the fat cut of the ulti, the 1.5 million 2-3. The C2 of Mauka is very hot, and as you can see, I don't have it going up. You can already see how strong it can be, and also the C2 too when you are playing support mode. The incinerator hoop reduces the defense of close enemies by 20%. But this is Modi. Support is to say when you're carrying. I think you don't benefit from this. This is just when you're support for Kinich Mualani, the new national Raiden. I have to prove and confirm if works well, or Mauka general support if it is Monopyro sub DPS of Arlequin in the Monopyro Exen. No, but 20% elimination enemy defense also makes a support with this already with this C2 too. Incredible because the base attack that Mavuika wins also wins it for the blows it does like. Support outside the field saying the C2 also helps to be a better support to be Jesus Christ. Basically with C2 is the double strong that Sigland and C3 Celestial Hell, +3, which is the ulti for both the cut of the million and the attack multipliers of Mavuika. Carry? I never saw it. I never read it because I didn't shoot by C4, so lately I forget the C4, but it says improves the effect of liabilities that with I. Godzi increases the damage of the ultimate ability Celestial Hell does not diminish over time and gets a 10% good extra year worth, is basically the talent that gives you 40% damage. And its shrinking gives you 10 more with which is 50 and doesn't shrink with which the C4 makes. Always be a 50% year inflicted continuously on the team half of Fiorina's Bufo, basically the C4 too. The whole team crazy, not the character in the field. Forgiveness. Then the elemental +3, and the CC3 will turn hyper carry that this madman never read GX the truth. The Flammagerian arsenal of the villa. Elemental denomination is valid when it is carry strengthened integral way. RI Incinerador this. When you are support motion link, the incinerator arc hits an enemy pyro cycle lashing against it. To inflict damage pyro veil is an extra hit of 200% of the attack, very strong pyro cycle that is. When you're carrying and you're loaded when Mavuika is handling the pyro cycle, will summon an arc burning image incinerator that will reduce by 20% the defense of nearby enemies in every 3 seconds. And I believe it is worth carry mode you do a hit every 3 seconds of 500% of the attack, and I will reduce 20% defense of nearby enemies is to say what the C2 does, but also in DPS mode in field. To further improve the Mavuika ability to move all over the ground, and on top it turns 80. A broken mount, and also when Mavuika is driving her pyro cycle in this combat when its point of entamelism reaches 5 has 80 points, i.e. double the ability to be mounted there. Chinks is crazy, but well, I'll never get it out. That's the constellation, this one of 2 broken. Zets for support is the parchment set, and there's not much variant with parchment set, no helmet. Attack, there are no rare things, don't worry, the clock has to be attack, the chalice is. Pyro's always more. I'm going to put you and show you the set I'm wearing is this set. I'm taking from support scroll and no weird stuff is always going to be pyro attack and critical damage always in D. Zup stats are always going to be probability damage and percentage attack. No flat attack, no recharge it. Please that people still have people building on Mavuika stigma today told me. And the recharge doesn't have the last normal Mavuika. 99% of Genshin's characters use recharge. Mavuika does not carry recharge ratio, i.e. probability and damage and percentage attack clock. Kalisa attack pyro helmet critical damage always as support, and that you have to look for. Max out the critical ratio reaching more than 70 probability and critical damage as a result of D. Over 200 what you can because I say what you can because considering the substats that you can get with the parchment set since the obsidian gives you 40 of ore. Probability this no, and without your weapon gives you 35 critical damage and 11% probability. The reality is that if you don't carry a weapon that gives you a good proportion now, we're talking about guns. 4 stars and 5 stars, it's complicated to weather critical proportion if you don't have artifacts. Perfect from the parchment set. But you have to take out more than 70 probability and more than 200 damage, so you take into account what the gun gives you. Obviously don't overdo 250 as I explained. With this set in no case are you going to wear attack helmet or weird stuff, is always going to be the same and D. Now, considering that I have your weapon that gives me 11 probability of 35 damage, this me. Ask a lot of people other videos because all the time I say weapon 35 damage and 48% attack. And you say that it was equipped in 28 as that 35 the next passive says that if you're in the field. 75% of the Bufo itself, 75% of 20 critical damage is 15, which gives you 35 critical damage, and 75%. 28 is 20, which gives you 48% attack for Mavuika, gives you this Bufo, and for Kinich also. For other characters who are not Natla and are not in a state of noctambulism, I score points C. This weapon, the rest of the characters of the game, gives you 20 critical damage, 28 attack, 11 probability. High base attack that is still very good, but for Kinich and Mavuika gives you 35 critical damage and 48 Of attack percentage then, how it should be left now. I explain now of carry, but how it should stay. With parchment support, so look, I will activate the elemental to activate the passive of the weapon. And I have the passive of the weapon as a support, and I can improve, and it still costs me 67 that I would like. I have more than 70 and 240 as you see. I have more than 5 recharge, but anyway, and as you see of attack, I have 3000. Without the rest of Bufos to imagine with Bennett, and with the C2 of Shilon in, and with the rest of Bufos as already, I put myself in 5000, and still don't activate the C2. I'm going to put myself in 6000 attack, imagine, and this is support. This is making Xiangling imagine now in Obsidian now, next part of how it works. MAVUIKA DPS. Well, here, I will explain the subject a little more calmly. Of the attack helmet, you have heard me say a lot, and it is very easy, the theme of the attack helmet. It depends on carrying your weapon, or weapons that give you a lot of critical proportion now. I'm talking about weapons in depth, and don't worry, because luckily the weapons don't divide into carry or not carry their need. MAVUIKA weapons at the end all work as much as the Terragitador, that is the weapon of the forge. NATLAN, that the Terragitador harms you in your elementary ability. Let's remember that all the climbing of normal and cutted attacks are the elementary skill with which the Terragitador serves them. All the cases, but well, now we dig a little bit more, but good, the set of Obsidian for carry. The weapons you carry give you a lot of critical proportion, and that going is already activated the set, no yes. Right now, I with MAVUIKA with the new set, and all activated with the Obsidian set, I'm 82 because gives me 40 sets and 258 to me leftover critical damage. As you can check, and on top my items are bad. The idea would be to have 75-80. Probability 240, 250 critical damage, including the attack helmet of 5. It's not right, you don't get to 240 and 250, you have to carry this proportion. First, in the attack helmet, once you have it included, the attack helmet at least reach 75. 240 if not helmet critical damage to weather the proportion to me. I have left 8, but I do not have helmet. I'll be wearing for now helmet critical damage on the day that with an attack helmet. I could still get that critical ratio would do much more damage is more MAVUIKA, not just with it, the C2, but with the attack multiplier that has in the last one. And I taught you a moment ago, obviously you'll rent a lot more from the attack helmet, and even with the base attack so crazy that you have new. But you have to make sure you weather the critical ratio that's easy, and I have this case that it's terrible that I could have more probability and the percentage attack, then I do not have a very bad helmet. A Kali of 28, damage 5 attacks, 3 failures, that could also improve quite a clock that. As you see, it has 18 recharge that places me does not use recharge, with which it could also improve. Rather with more probability, more damage, especially more damage to have an attack helmet, and then a pen of 25 damage 9, attack the recharge is failure, life flat failure with a tie, which is also a pretty bad pen, and a flower with 2 failures in mastery, that I don't want to. Mastery, although we depreciated, remember that it has crit value, and you at critical proportion and attack percentage. As you see, my set of Obsidian is terrible, and I have almost reached the million with Kone. When I pull out the C2, I'll give 1.5 million the Obsidian set just looking for critical ratio. Attack percent plus passive and such, and a weapon that critical proportion is going to be pretty easy. Get an attack helmet and still capping critical proportion, that would be its construction. Optimal, and it's the one I'm going to obviously go to now. Weapons, your weapon is a better weapon is the always in all characters has no criteria now that other weapons can use as. Kinnick's gun, which happens the passive gives you 60 years inflicted, but if there's a burn. And to repeat on the team clear, if you play MAVUIKA with Kinnick, perfect. So if you play MAVUIKA with Mualani Furina Shironen, no burn. If you play MAVUIKA with Emily MAVUIKA, Shironen Mualani. If yes, you play MAVUIKA carry with Charlie Shironen Bennett. Sorry if I didn't say it right, you won't play. Burning, you're gonna play melted with, which doesn't serve you the gun. Then Kinnick's gun is very good because the 60 years inflicted apart from the same main stats as your weapon has. You see, they're the same, but it depends on whether there's burn. If there's burn, it's very good, but if no burn is not so good. The emblem of the Sea of Reeds of Dea is very good, but Does not combine well with Obsidian set, i.e. with Mavuika carry, because it has 33 probability. Plus 40 to set 73 plus 5 base, plus the rest of the probability you get is going to spare you probability. The sea emblem of reeds is one of the best that can exist for Mavuika, but with it. MAVUIKA'S support then for Mavuika carry again with Obsidian. Set the tombstone is very good, because it doesn't give you critical proportion, but it allows you to wear helmet critical damage over proportion. And now the attack gives you the wolf's gravestone, that is, the permanent wolf is one of the best. Weapons for Mavuika carry with set of obsidian and helmet critical damage, so have it very in count, and here mention notifies to the tombstone the little wolf that is around here on screen that I don't remember what it's called, but it's the weapon of Fontaine's Forge that I mentioned many times. The weapon of Fontaine R5's forging, which is a controllable literally, is a small stone, is attack. Attack, 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 point, and how you carry double heating with Sinon on and Bennett that. The weapon has a passive that if packed vital and you heal it, I speak it, I talk it. The case is that, in short, that weapon is a little stone. That weapon same function as this and one of its best. 4 stars in the circumstances I explained of obsidian helmet critical damage, and now of controllable that I remember there is no more controllable to give you critical damage of 5 stars of 4 stars. I'm going to mention 4 mandible first, the tombstone, the little wolf of the forge. Fontaine of his best in these conditions, his best weapon 4 stars overall, i.e. Gentlemen, even if the base attack is not Jesucrist, the R5 Medulla of Pass Battle is your best weapon, which has a button is that just like the sea emblem of reeds, as it gives you probability, plus 43. Obsidian plus 5 bases are 27 and 40 67 and 5 base 72. You don't want probability in substat. You're practically gonna have enough if you play carry with this sub DPS gun with parchment set. And Engline 5 stars, very good if you get this gun. R5 not to go beyond 80 probability. 250 damage with obsidian set. Then the marrow is very good, but it has that problem, and then to finish 2 more free to play weapons in this case if you can't access a marrow that are the Terragitador and the Dark Rock, in my opinion, would tell you that the one that can balance you the most. Mavuika above all, obsidian carry with helmet of critical damage, forgiveness with helmet of attack. That can then give you the jump to other weapons with your own attack helmet, as for example your war weapon is the Dark Crag. The Dark Crag in Mavuika is pretty good and gives you 55 damage. Critical, what allows including the obsidian set to wear the attack helmet capping. Proportion the rock is being free to play the weapon to give a lot of room for maneuver, would not exceed the R5 marrow, but I repeat, the R5 marrow has some extra problems because you're going to have leftover probability and it's going to make you quite complicated to be able to have Capio of critical proportion. These are the general weapons from Mavuika. There is more, but everything below this that I've explained to you, they are worse. I have explained to you 3 weapons totally free to play. Forging of Fontaine, the attack like Little Stone, the Terragitador, than those of NATLAN. That is not bad situationally, but I'd say it's worse than the Crag then, the ones that are a little more pay to win mainly. Pass Battle R5 and then already 5 stars, including a permanent one that can come out at any time. Pride, if anyone asks me, very bad for Mavuika. Do not play Pride of Mavuika, now is sub DPS. Support what I explained to you before teaching towards A. Moment, you do not require anything to recharge the attack, and you have seen that you serve a lot in his. Your DPS with parchment is going to get complicated capping, even having your gun. I don't whether what I'd like the critical ratio, and on the other hand, as a field card with obsidian you've already seen what you have to have, and above all you have to understand and learn when to wear helmet. Attack if including KP's attack, helmet ratio 75-80, probability 240, 4,250 per year, including hull attack. Then at that time, the hull attack is Jesus Christ on earth as well. Easy depends a lot on whether the weapons give you critical proportion or not. Those that do not ask of the Wolf and Forge. Fontaine's don't give you critical proportion, with which Fontaine's PAA Wolf and Forge will go with it. Helmet critical damage almost always, and there will allow you to change proportion and the tombstone and forging. De Fontaine compensates you for the whole attack, now fast rotation. And remember that there's a video apart from Mavuika teams that I really want to do in addition to Mavuika carry strips the elemental. You break with all the equipment, and when you challenge with all the equipment you throw the ulti at first as if it were to Raiden, and you leave as you finish the ulti. Press the button to make charged attacks so that with the bike can melt all the blows, and you go with Sidley as easily as you do the hair. Final stroke of the bike, you will know that you finish the rotation and re-enter with Salonen Elemental. Ulti Elemental, ulti of Sidley Elemental, ulti of Bennett. You wait a second. If you have Elemental Bennett because you lose the app raised to melt strips, the ultimate Mavuika melts meets a million and loaded with the bike as easily the rotation of Mavuika, and for Mavuika support if it is. Or you lose ticks, especially with Mualani, that if Elemental strips at the beginning of the rotation and not before. Mualani won't give you the pyro for Mualani to evaporate the third bite, but if it's Cone Mavuika, that you have 20 seconds of application and full uptime, then if it is Cone, the Elemental of Mavuika is thrown at the beginning and broken with the whole team, so easy gentlemen, this is all the secret size. The use and all the importance of Mavuika, this is Mavuika's building. I hope it will help, I hope that I didn't have small mistakes like it happened to me before, because the character ends up but everything comes down to the creators, the build, and here's the build. I think that everything important about the character has been brought in depth, and I don't think any of them have escaped. Details of the weapons, sets or substats, use or rotation, or the talents or constellations, so little more, leave a good like a good. TDT net viral Duta build. We'll get to the 100,000 very soon in the first week, and hopefully that I reach 500,000. The build is the most cited of this character because it's my wife, and because I introduced her to you. I promise I haven't rehearsed her. She's been totally impromptu to play the game, with the glasses and everything, I promise, I swear. And the more you take care of much having very good day. I don't know. Thank you for appreciating the work of the channel team that you are having this will working. New Year's Day so that you have this will and Chaito, that you are very well people. Ciao ciao ciao.